All right, let's talk about getting fluent in Chinese. And actually, this will be applicable for any other foreign language. How to get fluent in Chinese and other foreign languages using the full immersion method. So, first of all, um, I thought that language learning is supposed to be slow. Back in the day when I just started, I actually started learning foreign languages pretty early when I was about 18 years old. I started doing it by myself. I started with English, and it took me so many years to just start speaking English. It's insane. And you can still hear I'm not perfect. I've never been to an English speaking country. And then started learning Chinese, and I was like, yeah, of course, it will take me like twice as much time, or three times, or five times as much time to learn Chinese. I started learning Chinese first year and a half. I couldn't see any progress. And I was like, what's wrong with me? Back then, I was doing classes. I was doing Chinese classes at my university in Russia, and it was just they were using Russian language to explain Chinese. So every single thing, like most of the class, of course, like 99.9% of the class was just speaking Russian to explain Chinese, right? So this is how the natural normal classes work in all countries. Actually, I also heard that I last year took Japanese classes in Seoul, and one of my classmates said that she studied in Japan, and she said that she didn't like it as much. And I was like, why didn't you like it? And she said, well, because they use English to explain Japanese, and the whole class was just in English. And it's not that it's completely ineffective, and it's not that it's a complete waste of time. It's better than nothing. But it has its own pros and cons, of course. But we need to understand that actually, basically, this is how my story goes. I didn't think that you can actually start speaking the language on a seemingly fluent level. At that time, when I went to China and then I started doing immersions, it took me like 4 months before I was just completely like free flowing in the conversation. I wasn't fully fluent in the language, but everybody who would just look at me, they would be like, "Oh, this guy's just fluent." But I wasn't fluent at that time. So I was. I mean, there is always so much to learn, right? And basically, the craziest thing that was like, I was like, this is just insane. It took me 4 months, and I still couldn't understand why it took me 4 months. What was different between how I was learning in China? And you'll be like, oh, because you were in China. Well, there is famous statistics like 70% of foreigners in Korea don't speak Korean. Actually, most foreigners in China on the Chinese program or just at the university, they don't speak good Chinese. Everybody needs to know that. Like, if you go to China, you just there are a lot of for example, Arabic people these days, from Arabic countries, and you talk to them. You're like, "Do you speak Chinese? Can you have a 5 minute conversation with me in Chinese?" If you just go right now to HIT campus in Haokongda, the place where I studied in Harbin, the best one of the top universities in China, and you just stop a random foreigner, random person, and you just see this is ridiculous. Like, they can't speak Chinese. Most of them can't even have like a 5 minute conversation, and this is true when I was there. Now it's even worse. This because I guess now how I know it is because uh um it's because basically the reason is uh, yeah, so basically it's even worse now. And how I know, just getting back to the point, I talk to teachers. I talk to teachers and I work together with teachers. And basically, that's how I know what's the level of the student. Most people really can't speak Chinese in China, most foreigners. And this is it's a minority. On the internet, you might see quite a few fluent people, but in terms of the overall statistics, this is such a tiny minority of foreigners who actually are fluent in Chinese, who live in China, and they're very fluent in Chinese. This is and very confident. This is extremely rare, extremely rare. Even now in 2025, it's actually worse than before, because before there are more foreigners in China. Now it's less. And Korea is just the worst. Like, no, pretty much nobody can speak. Like, it's like 70% of foreigners cannot speak Korean, who live here, by the way, who live, not travel, live. Um, and man, all the foreigners in Korea, just like it's probably like in 90%. So this is the most important thing to understand. The fact that I was in China, it doesn't mean that, oh, you learn Chinese because you're in China. Well, getting back to the point, one of the reasons, because I was kind of deconstructing what was the reason that led me to, because my behavior, it didn't change as much. what changed this kind of a few approaches, like, yeah, of course, just the fact that I was in China, I will tell you later how I applied that fact to actually just 10x my fluency. But one of the very important fundamentals that I had back then was what I now call immersion classes. And I switched on my coaching programs where I help people to become fluent in Korean, Chinese, Russian, especially these three languages. On my program, I actually switched completely to doing immersion classes just not that, probably like a year and a half ago, about a year ago. And it took me a while to realize what's the efficiency there. The reason why it's so effective and the reason why I got fluent in Korean, or sorry, in Chinese, and then I was struggling with Korean, and then I got close to fluent in Korean and conversation. I got conversational Korean really fast once I started applying this immersion method. The reason why is because we don't learn consciously as much as we think. So basically, conscious thinking is extremely slow. Our conscious processes is like our subconscious is faster than conscious, basically. So the way we react, the way we live, the way humans evolved over the over centuries is all in our subconscious. It's not about our conscious mind. Conscious mind is extremely important, but in conscious mind, if you look at one of my interviews with the Metaverse Japan, for example, who learned Japanese on a native level, he said that he like, just if you think about the rules, this is actually not as effective as you just apply them without thinking. This is how natives apply them. And how you learn by immersion, immersing yourself. So that's basically the most important part of how our subconscious mind works. And I started with the notion, with the story that all of us, or like most people, and me myself included, back in the day, are taking classes using their own native tongue. So you might be using English to learn Chinese. This is the slowest way to learn. This is the slowest way to learn. And the fastest way to learn is from day one, you log in online or you do it offline in China, and you just learn Chinese by using only Chinese. And this is easier than you think because the textbook has translation to English, and they have explanations as well. And the teacher explains some, like, very rarely they use English in the best schools, in the best systems, including my own. And this is the most, and this is why you can start speaking Chinese simple. You can start having simple conversations, not in 90 days, how I wrote in the title of this live stream, but actually in 30 days. And the reason why is because every single time when you take a class, your brain starts switching to only understanding Chinese. Although you cannot speak Chinese, but every single word that you've ever heard, every single word that you've ever saw in the textbook, all of a sudden this whole thing just pops up in your brain. And your brain automatically creates the space, the neurospace, basically, for this particular foreign language. That's basically how the brain works. Um, you motivated me to get a tutor from Preply and have done 3 lessons every week for 3 years now. Way better than trying to learn my own with an app for me. That's great. So somebody asked whether I'm in America or not. 3 months. 3 months. Okay, so I thought Chinese is on its peak of popularity. Yeah, it can be popular, but it doesn't mean that a lot of people can speak it and learn it fast. That's basically the most important thing. So, getting back to the point, the most important part here is immersive classes. So, one of the hacks to master Chinese and actually Korean and any other foreign language is when you have this rule. I am learning Japanese right now, by the way, and I've been taking Japanese classes only in Japanese for the past few years already. That's why I don't really need to think twice when I hear Japanese people speaking. I understand a lot of stuff. I don't freeze, if that makes sense, right? Like, I don't freeze is because I speak Japanese almost not every day, but 4 days of the week. I speak Japanese 1 hour a day, 4 days of the week. Speak all the time. I take only immersive classes. That's how I get fluent really fast. But back in the day, I didn't know about it. Even when I was learning Japanese, it's like there are a lot of things. My method evolves over time. There are a lot of things that I said. For example, I was talking about subconscious mind learning back in the day. Now I'm saying, well, how actually does it work? Like, what's the overall environment of mastering languages extremely fast. And I'm talking about like world's hardest languages. Check out the scale which rates languages from level one, which is the easiest, like European languages like Spanish, German, I think level two, Italian, French. Look at this scale, and level five languages such as Chinese, Korean, Japanese, Cantonese, and Arabic, they take 2,200 hours to learn during, according to some estimates. Don't take it as a precise number, but this is what they write. And it's actually 3.5 to 4 times more difficult than learning Italian. So basically, you can learn Italian, Spanish, French, and some other European language, and this will be as hard as learning Korean alone. Korean alone. People think Korean is a easy language because it has alphabet. I'm like, it's difficult precisely because it has alphabet, because the grammar is extremely complex. And so once you take those, of course, like what I'm saying now, if you take this approach and apply it to other languages, that would be, I mean, you would be like learning them so like 10x faster, even faster than Asian languages. And since I'm talking about the world's hardest languages here, especially, so in this particular live stream, I'm talking about Chinese a little bit more. So if you want to join my immersion program, we have 2 days left to apply for a semester. So you can click the link in the description of this live stream or go to victorytalkingacademy.com/Chinese. You'll see the description, what it's included. There are like also a lot of recorded sessions with me, which include like 30 hours or something. Weekly classes with native teachers, which don't use English. And absolutely like the best method. This is how I myself learned. So you don't have to go to China. You don't have to apply for visa and go through the months of hell in Hong Kong to go to China. If you're from America, or you don't have to like worry about getting visa, you can learn on your own. So basically, the most important part here is, even if you don't take my classes in Chinese in particular, just take it as an advice. Most teachers, by the way, won't be able to do it. Don't use English during classes. Don't use it, or your native tongue, whether it's Russian, because I know many Russians watch me. I have a Russian YouTube channel as well, which is growing right now like crazy. Um, you need to understand this. If you apply this advice for just 1 month, for the next 30 days, you'll realize that's the best thing you've ever heard online. And there are a lot of people who try to, yeah, there are a lot of people who act as an authority on like learning Chinese online, and I see them, and they talk about like a lot of things. They talk about input method and word mining and stuff like this, but they don't really talk about the fact that although they studied Chinese abroad, some of them, they literally had complete 100% immersion vacuum taking Chinese classes in Chinese. They never mention it. They say that they took Chinese classes, but they don't really say what made them understand the language in the first place really quickly. And I'm saying like in 3 months, all the basic phrases you'll be already able to understand if you apply this method. And on top of that, if you do social learning, you go out to interact, or you interact with people online, this is when actually the magic happens. The difference between me, so we're talking about immersion classes here, right? And you need to be active during class, you need to be speaking, you need to try to, not to try, but there is a rule that I have. People who join my immersion program, they go through onboarding. In the onboarding, there are some videos that I share, like in my course. I say, here are the phrases in the textbook that you can use to ask a teacher a question. Like, I have a question, I want to say this, I want to say that. You need to memorize these phrases, memorize them before the first class, so that you have this first, let's say, 10 to 20 phrases that you can use, you can ask a teacher without using English. It's possible. Every single person who goes to China, although most of them don't get fluent in Chinese, their listening is much better than their speaking. And everybody starts only with Chinese, learning Chinese in China. So if you want to get like a top level listening while being at home, while being out of China, the best way to do so is to start doing immersion classes. Like I said, I have my own program, which already helped a lot of people. By the way, learn not only Chinese, but also Korean, Spanish, Russian, those language. Spanish, I don't even speak this language. And people used my method to learn. It's crazy. Like, I have people joining my Korean program, then I give them my strategy to learn Spanish. and then I give them some other tools. They like read me testimonial on how they already like speak Spanish and stuff. So unfortunately, on like on every single domain, there will always be a minority of people who take action. Always be a minority of people. I myself find myself in like I take coaching programs. I join the coaching program and I see like 30 and 40 people there, and I see them asking like the dumbest question ever from the coach, and doing the same thing that he already told them not to do, and he told them what to do, but they just do the complete opposite. And I found myself like in the complete minority of people, in also me as a student in other coaching programs, other classrooms, sort of speaking, applying all the principles that I learned. So be in the minority. This is what I want to tell you. Like the thing that I'm saying is a hardcore stuff. You know what's the difference between push up, pull up, and the muscle up? So how much is pull up harder than the push up? And how much is muscle up harder than a pull up? So to do a clean muscle, one clean, semi-clean muscle up, you need to be able to do from 15 to 20 pull-ups, clean pull-ups, right? So to do just one or two semi-clean muscle ups. So this is how hard it is. I'm talking about right now in this live stream. I'm talking about the muscle up level stuff. If you know what I'm talking about. So basically, it's much harder than just like how do I like what's the easiest skill you can do? Like what's the easiest skill? I don't know. It's like people learn some easier skills and then they're like, oh well, I it's so hard to do. It's so basically I'm talking about level 5 types of languages. You can apply to French, Italian, other languages. I'm talking about the world's hardest languages, which are like character based languages. Korean grammar is actually the hardest in the world, one of the hardest grammars in the world. And people are like, well, Russian is also hard. Well, Korean is harder than Russian, right? So Korean is harder than Russian, basically. You can just Google it, use ChatGPT. You can increase your IQ with ChatGPT. I see people arguing with me saying, "Hey, no, it's bullshit. No, it's not hard." Yeah, use ChatGPT. Ask ChatGPT how much more times it takes according to what kind of data. It takes more time to learn Chinese in comparison to learning Italian, for European, for Westerners, like in particular, for example, right? So for Japanese person, it will be easier to learn Korean, for example, right? So I'm talking about my audience, which mostly comes from either Western countries or Russia or America. So this why I'm applying this 5-level language system. So immersion classes, this is the step number 1 to accelerate your progress. Like I said, you can start speaking in 30 to 90 days. Most teachers don't know how to teach. The reason why is because even if you take classes, there are cheap websites on Italki. My program is a bit more expensive. Now it's with a discount, but it's a bit more expensive. There are cheap classes. There are like you can take, which I actually recommend for just practicing speaking the language. Always be aware of qualifications of teachers and how they teach. If you want to see the difference between a good teacher and a bad teacher, there are a lot of things I teach in my programs. Just one of the things is that let's say bad teachers, unqualified teachers, teach you the translation of the word. They say go let's say that chu means go, right? But actually qualified teachers, they give you what is in Chinese called yungfa, the law of usage. So they give you 5 usages, not only sentences but also phrases with that word, and also teach you the grammar, where to put it in a sentence, right? So that's why there are a lot of people saying, well, you need to master 2,000 words in a language so you'll start speaking. Well, this is kind of true, but what is really important here is not mastering 2,000 words, but mastering 2,000 what? Who can put it in the chat? 2,000 what? 2,000 usages. 2,000 usages, right? So it's not just mastering the word go and the translation for it, but it's mastering how to use it. That's the most important thing. This is the difference. This is just an example of me. I'm not teaching you now. This is not the purpose of this live stream. I'm not teaching you now how to learn the language. I'm teaching it to my coaching clients. I'm not teaching you here how to learn the language. I'm teaching you, I'm giving you the example of what's the difference between a bad teacher and a good teacher. That's the difference. Just very basic teachers on like cheap websites like Italki, they'll be just opening the textbook and the presentation in front of you and just saying, repeat after me. You just like, you repeat, and they say the word and you repeat. They say the word and you repeat. They say the word and you repeat. And they're like, hey, you did a great job. And you're like, I have no idea what I just read, how I read it, what's the connection between the words, what's the conjugation, what's the reading rule, what are the examples with those words. I had no idea. Then the next thing that they do is that they make you repeat the sentence and put the word in the blanket. Not blanket. So basically put the word. So basically fill in the gap in the gap. My English is getting worse. So put the word in the gap, right? Fill in the gap, basically fill in the gaps. And so, for example, I go to, and you need to put like school and something else, right? I go to school, and then you need to choose a word, and they say like you repeat it. And this is how most language apps also kind of make you learn the language, or like do go through some stupid tests. The reason why I know all the AI based language apps in the world, and I tested them myself. The reason why I did that is because we're working on Victory AI app, my app, our app for me and my successful client from my Chinese coaching program, by the way, who learned Chinese, who is dating in Chinese, who went to China, also applied my immersion method, and basically he speaks Chinese now. So me and him developed this app, and I tested a lot of apps, and I noticed that they use the dumbest ways to teach the language, because it's the easiest, right? You basically put in like the card and say, what's the correct translation of this word, and you just choose, and then repeat after me, and you just repeat. I'm not saying that repeating isn't necessary. It's called shadowing. There is another technique, but I'm just saying it in the context that most teachers are not qualified to teach a foreign language. If they're natives, it doesn't mean that they can teach. If you ask a Korean person, can you explain me the difference between iga particle in Korean and inin particle in Korean? The simplest particle you learn within the first, like on the first lesson, basically, on the first Korean lesson. They wouldn't be able to answer this question. Like, ask a Korean person, what's the difference between them? They won't be able to say. They don't know how to explain it, because you need to learn how to teach. You need to be qualified. There are two types of qualification that I see in terms of teaching foreign language. Number one is you yourself, like me, for example. This is why I am qualified to teach Chinese and Korean on a certain level. Not on, I'm not teaching, by the way. Now I used to coach people. Now I have the best teachers who do it. I just coach how to do it, but I used to teach it for years. I have people who got fluent. I was teaching them for like hours and hours and hours every single week. Back when I had like 1,000 subscribers, there were people like Corey from France. He took so many classes. Then after years, I talked to him. He's like fluent in Chinese. Like, wow, he passed like HSK 4, and then after they got fluent. But basically, there are two types of qualifications. The first one is you actually went to the best university and you have experience to teach the language. Second is you yourself learn the language to the core. And you can only teach, by the way, the level that is below you. You cannot, of course, teach the level which is close to your level. You can only teach people who are kind of below you in your level. So basically, that's the most important thing. And the second part of the method, the first part of the method, is immersive classes. You come to a class, you don't use English or any other native language. You're using only the language that you're learning currently. In this case of this live stream is Chinese. Second thing is you do social learning, which I teach. I don't have a program for that. I teach just in my digital courses, basically, or in my videos. If you're curious about what is social learning, there are two types of it, right? So you basically practice the language with natives. I call it unstructured practice. The reason why it's unstructured is because there is no structure, there is no teaching. You can learn new words while interacting. You can learn like slang while interacting, but by the way, you need to get to that level of just speaking to natives without like freezing every word. How do you get there? With immersive classes, which is the hardest part, right? Practicing is the easiest part. You go online, you go to apps like HelloTalk, not promoting here. You go to apps like I don't know what apps you use. There are a lot of apps probably these days, and or you just go out and you go to like Chinese restaurants, Korean restaurants, supermarkets. You come to a country, you practice the language, you find some friends. So this is what you do. So this is immersive learning. The biggest difference between me and other people which were in China didn't become fluent while I was there in my group and just like from my semester. There are two differences. The first thing, I couldn't shut up during the class. I was the most talkative person. There is no teacher who doesn't remember me. There was the most talkative person in the whole freaking group of all the groups of students. I couldn't shut up. I was speaking all the time during the class. There is nobody who was speaking Chinese more than me during classes. So it's not just immersion. You need to be active. You need to be active, right? So that's the first thing. You need to be active, not using English. Don't be like, you know how you learn Chinese in Taiwan. It ends up being just learning English. Like, oh, excuse me, can I ask you a question? Don't do this. So that's the first thing. It's better for you. It's better for you, right? Next thing is, because your brain, it needs to immerse, it needs to create this neural connections in your brain, this space. It's extremely hard to do. It's very hardcore process. I'm talking about like spy type of stuff now, like how to learn language fast for spies or something like this. I don't know. So this is how they probably do teach spies. It's like it's a lot of shock type of learning, when you have to learn by just surviving, by being there, by immersing, by using your subconscious mind. Your subconscious brain just like I said, your conscious mind is not. You need to use conscious mind too. This is what my method is based on. But subconscious mind is for fluency. Conscious is for knowledge. Subconscious mind is for fluency. You need both. You don't get fluent by using your subconscious, by using your conscious mind. I think about the rules all the time, but not as much. Like not as much. At the beginning, I do think about the rules. Then I just don't think about the rules. I just speak, right? So um, that's the most important thing. And how do you do social learning? You go out, you interact with natives, and you just don't use English at all. I have accelerated course, and one of the principles. It's just a digital course. It's just a cheap digital course. This is my system. Basically, it's the best system that I developed over the years. One of the principles there, it's called the reason why it's called burying the bridge is because you just refuse to use English no matter what. When I take Japanese classes, I learn Japanese only in Japanese. There are a lot of simple words I forget or don't know. What do? I don't say them in English. My teacher knows English. She knows how to translate it. What do you think I do? I refuse to use English during the class. I translate with my phone. That's it. Just use Google and Translate. That's it. I don't use English. This is my principle. Somebody speaks English to me in Japan. I refuse to use English. Somebody speaks English to me. There are a lot. We went this just this the beginning of last month in September. I went to Hokkaido Island. I went to quite a few places: Hakodate, Noboribetsu, Sapporo, some other place. And there are a lot of people, Japanese people, that are speaking English. And I'm not fluent in Japanese, but I always say, "Nihongo de daijoubu desu." It's okay to use Japanese. I always say that. I'm not fluent. And then they throw a lot of stuff at me. I'm like, what the hell did they say? And I don't understand in a lot of cases. Although I was really confident saying this phrase, I do it on purpose. I put myself under pressure to become fluent extremely fast. This is what I do. So this is my attitude. So if you talk to natives, you don't use English at all. That's the most. But you'd be like, oh, but I'm not good enough. Or no. I'm like, well, become good enough. Go through immersion programs. I have my own program. Click the link in the description. Check out the description. Watch the video if that makes sense. Watch the description, or find something similar. Find something similar for any language you're learning, be it Japanese, Korean, or Chinese. So, or Russian. I have a Russian immersion program as well. If you're interested in other programs, go to Victor Talk. VictorTalking.com slash wait a second. Is it VictorTalking.com/bridge? Is it this one? Or VictorTalkingAcademy.com/bridge? Oh yeah. VictorTalkingAcademy.com/bridge. There are like a list of courses I have you can check out. I have a free course also. You can just go to VictorTalking.com. There is a free course. Just about these principles that I'm saying now. But you need to take only immersion classes, only using this language. A lot of polyglots, or not polyglots, but people who master Chinese on the fluent level without leaving their own country. There are a lot of things that they say, that they teach, but they don't say the actual things that they did or went through. One of the things that nobody says, they just mentioned, oh, I am at the university and we have this faculty when where everybody is Chinese and we only use Chinese. And that was the reason why you start understanding Chinese and speaking in the first place, which is the hardest thing. Most people cannot do that. That's the secret. That the secret is right there. This is what I told you, right there. Then the next step is stay consistent. Don't procrastinate. Stay consistent. By the way, you can start on right now, October 28th. For you, it might be, oh yeah, October 28th. You can start now in 30 days. Where will you be? Right? Only like in 90 days, where will you be from now? In after 3 months of immersion classes, where do you think you will you be? So that's the most important thing. Ask yourself this question. It's not for everybody. Most people are not like, some people do, some people don't. I saw people getting fluent on my program even without immersion classes. By the way, this is why I call it right now. I call it Accelerator 2.0, not Accelerator like I used to call it. Is because in the previous version we used English during classes. Now it's kind of it's all solved out. Most, like I would say back in the day it was like 50-50, but now it's full immersion for all programs. I see people speaking Russian. Dude, we had this client. He didn't know alphabet. He joined the program. After 3 months, he was already like speaking Russian. I was like, what? This is just, and this is it's like this is with such a small number of hours invested, because it's extremely intense. You can learn the language 5 hours a day, but the intensity will be extremely low. For example, you just do some flashcards, you do some app, and you watch some TV show. You also count it as a study time. This is what I would call low intensity, just exposure type of learning, like a free flowing, right? You can learn like that, like 10 years, 20 years. Then in 1 hour, you can get stressed out of your head. Like sometimes, for the first time in a long time, I took a Japanese class again. I had a 1 month break. Then I took Japanese. Dude, my brain was spinning. I was like, I'm just going crazy. I can't speak. I put like when I started speaking Korean again, like I started putting Japanese words in between Koreans. Like my brain just is so confused, because this 1 hour of learning Japanese only in Japanese is extremely tense. So 1 hour of learning, it's equal to other people learning for like 20 to 30 hours. It's high intensity type of learning. So low intensity type of learning is when you just free like flashcard with the Duolingo app. And high intensity, this is the lowest intensity, by the way, like lowest efficiency, lowest intensity. And the highest intensity is when you take, it's like, dude, I don't understand anything. I don't know what to do. Like I have to guess my way out of it. I have to say like 3 words here. I have to like connect the dots and try to say some sentence. That's the highest intensity type of learning. Highest intensity learning is when you think about the tone, think about the character, think about the stroke order. Like there are a lot of things that you need to think about when it comes to learning. Like in Korean, to think about conjugations, you think about the spelling, the immersion rules, how some, like there is a lot of words in Korean, if not like most of them, they're not read how they're written. That's actually the fact with many other languages. So basically, that's the thing. Let me finish my speech here. So the best way to learn is to use immersion method, and to immersion method, which is in this case, I mean immersion classes. And you need to take them as quickly as possible, because time flies by. The more you wait, the less likely you are to actually start learning this language. So the longer you wait, the longer you postpone, the more your brain thinks that it's not necessary for you to learn those languages. This is why most people don't learn. It's because of procrastination, not because of the lack of abilities. Everybody can do it. It's just about the willpower. It's just about burning the bridges. This is what I did myself for so many years. So I was procrastinating with Japanese for so many years, and I was learning on and off all the time. But then I just took responsibility for myself, and then I was like, I cannot wait anymore. So, and then I just started immersing completely. I was immersing offline with offline classes and online as well. Okay, so let me go through a couple messages. So, Victor, I've caught you live for once. Can I ask, how did you personally go about learning Japanese? I'm still trying to absorb the kana because they're not sticking in my brain. It's only immersion classes. You can learn Japanese by yourself with textbooks, with videos, with animes for years, and you won't be fluent if you don't go fully immersive with classes. Fully immersive classes. That's the way. Um, I'm a passive introverted guy. I listen and watch videos a lot. Have you noticed a huge difference in terms of progress when talking a lot? When talking a lot compared to just hardcore receiving input, sentence mining, etc. Depends on what your goal is. There are different learning strategies. My strategy is getting fluent ASAP, which is I want to get fluent with above average pronunciation as quickly as possible in the language, or at least similarly fluent. What I call similarly fluent is like, for example, to people who don't speak Japanese, if you watch my Japanese video, like P video where I speak Japanese, I don't stumble on every word. So you don't really know what my level is, right? So to some people, it might seem like I'm fluent because I can just speak really quickly sometimes when I speak Japanese. To people who know the language, they're like, oh, this guy is like intermediate maybe. So this is why if you want to follow my method, find the Japanese classes online and offline, or the best is the program, which should be full immersive, and with professional teachers, by the way. With my program, the difference between my program for Chinese and Korean, now I'm talking about Chinese, is that I also have 40 hours of recorded classes where I myself go through every single page of the first textbook, every single page, and I explain every tone, every pinyin, every word, every character, every grammar rule. So there is my component there. Like I explain a lot of stuff. This is a lot of material that I myself created. So it's not just class. There's like the whole program. There's a lot of stuff there, like the guidelines, the techniques, and everything. I'll teach you how to practice, where to practice, how to improve your pronunciation. And this is not only like online class; it's also like a lot of offline materials. So if you can find something like this for Japanese, that would be great. Um, can you choose when you want to have a lesson? In my program, if you talk about Chinese immersion program, yes, you can. You can choose a schedule basically. Depends on when you enroll. Depends on your time zone. Mostly, you choose the time, and you either get placed in an extremely tiny group. Right now, it's up to 3 people. But mostly, it's these days it's 101. These days it's one because people are from different time zones. So there is a if you enroll really early, there is a high probability that you'll just be 101. Um, UK, yes, there are people from all the time zones. So just a few words about my program. Once you click the link, you'll just see the description with the price, and with like this with what it's included. The most important thing to focus on is once you enroll, you'll get onboarding email with my explanations, with like step by step process. There are a lot of things that I teach here in live stream. Sometimes I just talk about them like very briefly, but on my program, these are actual tasks that you need to go through. For example, hacking characters, hacking Chinese characters. This is really important. Nobody talks about it. How do you hack a Chinese character? How do you become talented, so to speaking, memorize and understand Chinese characters? You know, Chinese characters. If you hack Chinese characters, you kind of hack Japanese characters as well. If I don't understand any word, Japanese teacher just types the character for me, and I understand 90% of what she types. Is because I mastered Chinese characters, and there are some techniques that I use that Chinese people, by the way, Chinese people themselves learn those techniques when they're a child, just like from childhood, like when they're like 6 years old, they already go through it. One of those techniques is 214 Chinese radicals. So once you master the radicals, there is like a radical list, what I recommend, and I go through them. There are also like rules on how to memorize those. It's not just memorizing radicals, also like some other tweaks to them. There are a couple other techniques for memorizing characters faster. It's not about working hard, it's about working smart. You can learn Chinese for 1 hour and you can learn much more than the person who learned Chinese for 5 hours. What's the reason? Is because you can apply techniques such as, again, hacking characters. There are 3 steps for hacking Chinese characters that I use. Um, and there are a lot of things I can mention here. I just don't have enough time. Like, for example, Chinese people learn Most Chinese words consist of two characters, and Chinese people learn words, but not by memorizing the word. The whole word consisting of two characters. They learn words by understanding each and every character. So this is also one of the techniques that I use. It's called smart learning. There are a lot of things. For those of you who had my digital courses, there is a lesson called one of the 12 principles. It's called of accelerated principles. So this lesson is called smart learning. You can learn with the quality, and you'll be learning. Your learning will be like an exponential curve. So the more you learn, the faster you learn. Or you can be learning in just like a, let's call it, not the very smart way, where your learning will be just like a straight line. So the more hours you put in, so for example, um, the fact that you put in 3 hours today doesn't mean that you for you it will be easier and to learn tomorrow, and you'll be learning faster. It doesn't mean that. But with exponential learning techniques, it means that the more you learn today, the faster you'll learn tomorrow, and the easier it will be. Which means that there are a lot of techniques which are based on understanding of the language rather than just cramming. You don't just memorize the word, you understand the structure of it. That makes sense. So this is I'm just trying to like tell you what's actually behind this. This is much more than just oh, let me memorize some four tones, like, and also tones as well. There are techniques that I teach in my course. I give special names to tones, like robotic tone, for example. What is robotic tone? It's the first tone, right? First tone in Chinese. Right? So it's the first tone in Chinese. It's like robotic. It's a bit high pitched, by the way. A bit high pitched voice. A lot of learners, they struggle with the second tone. So how do I call a second tone? I call question intonation tone, a question mark tone, right? So there are a lot of, even if you just name some things, it already becomes like 50% easier just because you give some name tag, give some really simple explanation. And most people don't do that. Most teachers don't do that. They're like, oh, let's just repeat after me, And you're like, what am I even repeating? I can't even understand what you're saying. Especially, I would say, don't believe teachers who just think that they can teach the language just because they're natives. This is ridiculous. I am the worst at teaching my own native tongue, Russian, because I've never learned it and I've never got a qualification as a teacher for this language. This is why in my program, Russian program, I have a coach who teaches Russian only in Russian. This is why. But I can teach Chinese and Korean. This is what I used to do for years. But now it's even better. Now I teach how to learn it on coaching calls, and the teachers just teach it for me instead of me. Victor, do you think it's important to know how to handwrite, in Chinese nowadays if you have no plans to live in China? Even if you do have plans to live in China, you don't have to learn how to. I learned how to write. I went through uh, so many dictations myself. I wrote essays in Chinese, pages of essays in Chinese. And I can tell you from this perspective that you don't really have to do it. This is what I said. This is what I teach in my program. I answer a lot of these questions. Do you need to write? How much do you need to write? What are the writing rules? How to learn the right? Like, there are a lot of things I show. The order of strokes, right? And what's the I basically teach. There are a lot of principles I teach. One of the principles I just say, you need to learn just the writing rules. So if you want to write some character, you don't freeze. You can just look at how the character and you know how to write it. But you don't need to go beyond that. I don't think it's necessary. I think it slows down a lot because ultimately your goal is speaking, right? If your goal is writing, you can master writing, but let's say it's a second priority or third priority. Let's say the first priority is listening, because if you don't understand, actually the first priority should be listening. This is why my immersion classes program is the best. Listening is the very first one. Second one is being able to say simple stuff, just simple stuff at the beginning. So 2-3 words is enough. What if you cannot say it? You tell teacher, 等一下, please wait a minute. Can you just recognize this phrase? Memorize this phrase. 等一下,等一下. You just memorize it. You open your phone and you're like, how? And you just type here, like, how do I say? And you just type it in English, and then you say it. You don't switch to English. That's the thing number 2. Learn how to speak simple sentences in immersion types of situations. Guys, I'm not giving you the roadmap on how to start speaking Chinese in 5 years or 10 years, or by having a crazy advantage of being born close to the country or in the country or traveling. I'm saying how to become, how to start speaking Chinese, get conversational within the next 90 days without leaving your home, without leaving your room online. This is what I'm telling you. So don't get focused too much on writing. This is a mistake I did back in the day. First year I was writing 2 hours a day. 1 to 2 hours a day was insane. Speaking, texting via keyboard. Yes, don't even. You can learn how to. I do recommend it, but it's like a recommendation. It's like I recommend you to like learn how to write, but it's not like as strong as I'm saying. You need to memorize Chinese radicals. You need to master Chinese radicals. Thinking of learning a new language. Not as of now. I'm learning Japanese. Japanese is already new now for me. I'm not fluent in it. I'm conversational. So, all right. Thank you so much for joining, guys. I will probably just hop on some Instagram live stream. Click the link in the description. Check it out. Enroll. 2 days are left in the immersion program this semester. Next semester, it's going to be different terms. All right. Thank you so much. And I'll see you in the next live stream or the next video.